I think the first thing that needs to be said is that VD attack plan is not politically correct. And that doesn't bother me in the slightest, but I think it's something that needs to be said before you watch it. There are certain things in this that shocked me, that Disney would create this to show in schools. And yes, this was a different time. This was released in 1973, certainly is a product of the 70s. But I think it's actually a lot more open and a lot more honest than I would have expected, which is certainly something that works in its favour. It was directed by Les Clark, written by William Bush, and is narrated by Keenan Wynn, who plays this sergeant who is in charge of venereal disease. And you've got all the different kind of germs, if you like. You've got gonorrhea and syphilis and stuff. And then all these little animated creatures. They basically look like blobs with faces, but they look very menacing and very evil. And throughout this, 15-minute short animated video, mostly short, we do have a couple of graphic images of certain types of VD at certain points, but mostly animated, and it's all about how this sergeant is telling his armies how they can attack, how best to spread the viruses, that it's through skin-to-skin contact, sexual contact, and it emphasizes, that it can be male to male, female to female, whatever, which I thought was really good, actually. I didn't expect them to kind of to be so just blunt and upfront about homosexual relationships. I would have expected them to just ignore that completely, but no, it was very, very open and honest about it, and it's funny. It's meant to be entertaining, to engage you, to educate you through humor, which certainly it does. And it talks about how, the symptoms that you may show, or how long they take. And there was one of them, and I genuinely didn't know this. There's one that can be dormant for 20 years. Or it's not so much dormant, but you have zero symptoms. You're asymptomatic. And then all of a sudden you could just drop dead of a heart condition. And they may not even be able to identify what caused that heart condition. My goodness, that's slightly terrifying information. So it's very informative, very educational, very well written. The animation is weird, but it works. Very open and honest, but just not politically correct. First of all, at the very beginning, it states that there are only two kinds of people, men and women. That aged it very quickly. It also says that there are people of different colour, which is true, and then it lists the colours, if I remember rightly, as white, black, brown, yellow, and red. I don't think that's PC. It then said, at some point, that VD, if a woman is pregnant, it can attack the unborn child. And then it said, and I quote, if the child is alive when it's born. Yikes. And they're certainly going for scaremongering. It's meant to kind of shock you. But I think it crossed a couple of lines. It's weird because obviously in the 70s, these kind of subjects were certainly a lot more taboo. And yet when they do talk about them, they're a lot more forward and breaking of boundaries that they perhaps shouldn't be doing. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy of being pleasingly open and honest, but being a little too frank and not really considering people's feelings. But I enjoyed it. It's cheesy, it's good fun, it is educational, it's honest. The animation style is not the highest quality Disney has ever put out, but it works really well. It's different. I don't remember having seen this at school. I went to the school in the 90s, but a lot of the educational videos we watched were at least products of the 80s, maybe earlier. I say give it a watch if you have a spare 15 minutes. It will amuse you in some ways. It might benefit you in others, I don't know. But certainly VD Attack Plan was a lot more than I was expecting.